What's going on, everyone? I'm the Green Chaos Emerald, and the holiday season is here! Whether you celebrate Christmas specifically like I do, or have any other holidays you celebrate around this time of year, I hope you enjoy the holiday season. Now then, I've really been enjoying Crossworlds since it released. I've been having a blast with how responsive the controls are, the interactions between each character, and the layout/design of the tracks. And that last thing is what I want to talk about in today's video. Across every race I've played, I've been thinking about how I felt about the different aspects of each track. Track layout, theme, music, all of it. And by doing so, I've managed to place all 24 main tracks, as well as all 15 Crossworld tracks, into a neat order ranked from worst to best. This video has been heavily delayed, so by now both the Minecraft and SpongeBob tracks are out. I'm planning to rank all the DLC tracks separately once they've all released. One thing to keep in mind is that these are just my opinions. I'm ranking these tracks based solely on how I feel about them, nothing else. Feel free to share your own opinions about the tracks in the comments. I'd be happy to see what other people think of the tracks in this game. But with all that out of the way, let's get started. To start with, I don't believe there are any objectively bad tracks in Crossworlds. I think every track offers something unique that's sure to click with some players. With that said, I certainly subjectively consider one track bad. In 39th place, the one track I genuinely don't like racing on is Kraken Bay. Which sucks, because in concept it's super cool. Racing through a broken down shipyard with a massive kraken attacking you, as an idea, that's awesome. But in execution, especially when trying to complete time trial mode on it, the track is just frustrating to race on. It feels like you have to have perfect timing on literally everything just to get an A rank, let alone an S. Maybe that's just me being bad at the game, but whatever the case, it makes Kraken Bay my least favorite track in the game. Up next, in second to last place, is Donpa Factory. I don't know why, but this track was also unreasonably difficult for me to get the time trial A rank on. I like the design and theme of the track, it just ends up frustrating me, much like the previous one. But the brighter and more vibrant visuals give it an edge over Kraken Bay, as does the conveyor belt that activates on lap 3 to give you an additional boost to your speed. In 37th place, I have Mystic Jungle. This is the last track for a bit that frustrated me, and this time it wasn't in time trials. It was the first and only time where I genuinely felt like I lost unfairly. Granted, that may have just been me getting mad about losing a race, but it felt like no matter what I did, the CPU racers were so much faster and kept spamming the most powerful items every second. Which I know is part of the game, the item RNG is guaranteed to screw you over eventually. But even in all the races I've done since then, none have felt as unfair as the first time I played Mystic Jungle. And to actually touch on the track itself before ending this section, it's just average. A basic cave section that leads into water flowing down two paths, then a turn that leads back to the start. Not that interesting, but it's whatever. I don't even mind that it's based off a level in Forces, since Shadow Generations showed that Forces-inspired levels can be amazing. I just wish this one was as good as Sunset Heights in Shadow Generations. In 36th place, a track I originally hadn't placed nearly this low, but every time I race on it, I seem to like it less and less, leading to me going back and revising this ranking. But that aside, it's Golden Temple. I don't know what it is about it. I used to think it was super cool, but the more I race on it, the less I enjoy it. I don't inherently dislike any part of it, aside from maybe the music, which is just okay to me. but the layout and visuals are fine, so I really don't know what has caused it to drop so low in my ranking. I don't even have anything else to add for this section. I'm really not sure what to say. Coming up next, 35th place goes to Sweet Mountain. For this one, it didn't rank so low because of anything it did wrong, rather just the level it's based on. If any of you watched my festival videos, you remember I mentioned that I've never been a fan of Sweet Mountain in Sonic Colors. Food-based levels in general tend not to be a particular favorite for me, especially when they focus on sweets. It just ends up looking bad visually when everything is candy and cake and chocolate. It feels like I'm gonna have a heart attack just looking at it. But even beyond that, I've also never liked the music for the level. It's kind of annoying to me, the way it goes. It's just not for me. And even the layout of the track isn't all that original, and is done much better by other tracks that have similar design elements. Overall, this track just isn't for me, but it didn't frustrate me at all, so it's better than the other tracks that did. Next up, in 34th place, is Sky Road. Another track that was tricky in time trial, but not quite to the extent that Kraken Bay and Donpa Factory were, so it didn't end up frustrating me that much. I really like how this track starts with a flight section, so I could use the gadget setup that I used to use to its fullest. It may not be the fastest, but it feels fast and cool to pull off. I'll go over what the technique is on a more relevant track, even though I don't use it as much anymore after starting to use other gadgets. The rest of the track from there is just okay though. Long, wide turns that end up just being one huge drift, and the end is just a split path that immediately goes back together and ends in a straight line back out of the Crossworlds. But overall, it's a fine enough track, and I like it. At 33rd place, we have Coral Town. I'm going to be straight up. This is the prime example of a great track held back by a major design flaw, at least to me. It has multiple paths, which is cool and interesting, but the visuals somehow feel so bland and orange, even though the track is themed around coral. When I think of coral, I think of blue and pink and purple, not orange. It could just be me, but this is one of my least favorite tracks visually, and the music doesn't stand out either. At the end of the day, the track is saved from being any lower because of its fun and unique track layout, but at least to me, that's the only thing it has going for it. Number 32 belongs to E Stadium, the starter track for the game. Honestly, from here on out, all the tracks are pretty good. Even for a first track, E Stadium does a great job at teaching the mechanics of the game, while still remaining fun to go back and race on. I also like the visuals and music the track has. They complement the feel of the game and fit the track itself super well. I don't really know what else to say, it's just a fun and enjoyable racetrack. Also, the Super Boost panel on lap 3 that lets you take the grass shortcut even without a speed item is awesome. Up next is Rainbow Garden in 31st place. I really like the visual of this track. From the river flowing through the canyon at the start of the track, to the fields of flowers both in the background and that you descend down at the end of the track. The layout is a little bit basic, and the music is decent enough but nothing special, at least not to me. But it's still a fun track to race on. I overall do like it, especially for that canyon section. I really like it. That section is also where I first learned of the technique that I used to use, which I'll explain soon on a track that utilizes it even better than this one. Coming in at 30th place, we have Water Palace. All three of the tracks from the first cup are pretty fun. This one I also really like for the visual aesthetic, between the white and blue buildings and the short section where you drive in a glass tunnel underneath the water. The track also introduces the on-water racing mechanic, assuming you haven't seen it in a Crossworlds prior to racing on this track for the first time. But what really puts this track above the other two is the music, specifically on lap 3. When that lap 3 track starts blasting, I know it's time to lock in and give it my all to the end of the race. From a watery paradise to a flaming cavern, at number 29 we have Magma Planet. This is the track I alluded to during the Sky Road and Rainbow Garden sections that takes perfect advantage of my old technique. By repeatedly air drifting back and forth, I can keep my speed up a bit higher than usual. This technique was super helpful in clearing time trial races for the jukebox tracks, and while it's less noticeable in online races, it did still help there as well. But to discuss the track itself for this track section, I really like the visuals and layout of this course. The magma snakes leaping out of the magma are super cool, although they do get a bit annoying when trying to go fast enough for the time trials. Between that, the time trial being trickier than others, and the music just being alright, all things considered, at least to me, I can't really put this track any higher, even though I really do like the design. Next up, in 28th place, is Dinosaur Jungle. Like with Magma Planet, what really drags this one down and prevents it from being higher is the obstacles during time trial, and the music not being a favorite of mine. But this track is still a lot of fun to race on, especially towards the end. Drifting across the giant plants, including the inner shortcut on the second plant, feels great. And driving up the back of a massive dinosaur to end the Crossworld is objectively cool. Plus, the T-Rexes in the middle of the track, that's just straight up awesome, even if they're annoying at times to avoid. It's dinosaurs, what else do you expect me to say? Dinosaurs are awesome. The 27th spot, I've put Blizzard Valley. This is another one I've dropped a few spots from my initial placement of it in the ranking. I really like the track layout, and especially the visual design of the theme and setting. An Eggman-style drilling plant in the middle of a blizzard, with the reds and grays of the machinery contrasted by the white and blue of the snow and ice, it looks so good! But this track is so frustrating to actually race on thanks to how slippery the ice is. It also feels like the wind is able to blow you around and mess with your turns and drifts, which is super annoying. I know there is a gadget in the game that negates slipping around on sand and snow, but I can only think of 3 tracks that this gadget would even be helpful on. And on the other 2, I don't even have issues with slipping around, at least not that I notice. So it just doesn't feel worth equipping that gadget for this one track, meaning that I have to put up with the slippery controls. As much as I would love to put this one higher because of how it looks, I just can't justify it because of how frustrating it is. Up next is Galactic Parade in 26th. I'm gonna be upfront about this one as well. It's the robots towards the end, shooting the lasers, that are responsible for me ranking this track this low. I swear, no matter what I do, I always end up getting hit by them. I try to go to the side to avoid their fire, they shoot at an angle with no warning and hit me. I try baiting them into an angle shot, then veer out of the way at the last second, they shoot at the regular angle and still hit me. It's so annoying. I like the aesthetic and track design. Racing in space is always cool. And the rest of the track is fun to race on, but those robots alone bring the rank down to 26th place. Additionally, while this doesn't factor into its placement in the ranking, it feels like I race on this Crossworlds more than any other. Whenever I see one I don't like at the split for lap 2, I aim for random if it's a Crossworld I don't like, and when I do, it feels like the random one chosen is Galactic Parade like 70% of the time. There's another Crossworld that also has this issue, but it's a little higher on the list. In 25th place, we have Metal Harbor. This is one that I originally didn't like all that much when I played it in the open network test for this game. I don't know what it was about it, but I didn't like it back then. Nowadays though, I think it's good. I like how the track is basically 3 hairpin turns merged into one. It makes my new drift-focused gadget setup help out a lot. The music isn't anything spectacular, at least not to me, but it isn't bad by any means. Overall, it's just a solid track that's fun to race on. Next up is Pumpkin Mansion in 24th place. I think this track is great in concept, but needs a bit of work in execution. Having the entrance and side halls of the mansion loop back inwards on the ceiling through the use of the travel rings is super cool, and I wouldn't change much about that, save for maybe the chandeliers. It's hard to tell why they're there unless you hear about it from someone else, but you can drive into the chains to drop them onto people on the lower path. The other change I'd make is to lap 3's fire path. Another awesome idea, but it's tricky the first few times to actually figure out the path of the road you're trying to drive on, when the road itself is hard to see. But the issues aren't bad enough to outweigh how cool the ideas are, so it goes here in 24th place. Coming in at 23rd place, we have Eggman Expo. I really like all the references throughout this track, from the Egg Dragoon and Badniks at the start of the track, to the Death Egg Robot at the end of the flying section. The music for this track is alright, though I don't tend to notice it that much when racing on this track. The only part of the track I don't like is the water pipe at the end. Unless you know what you're doing, you're gonna get caught on the turn in the pipe and drop several spots in the ranking. But that aside, it's still a good track. I'm starting to feel like I just keep repeating myself. There's only so many ways I can say a track is good, but I can't put it any higher. So I'm gonna quickly go through the next few spots, as I feel similarly about them all. They're all good, but have something stopping me from ranking them any higher. From 22nd to 18th, we have Chow Park, Colorful Mall, Dragon Road, Holoska, and Hidden World. They're all fun to race on and visually interesting. To quickly run through the small issues, Chow Park has the annoying U-turn, Colorful Mall doesn't have very memorable music to me, Dragon Road has the Phoenix shooting fire to block one side or the other towards the end, Holoska also doesn't have music I remember well, and it's the other Crossworld I feel like I race on as much as Galactic Parade, and Hidden World, well, actually, I can't think of anything. This one really is just a solid track. There are just others I prefer more. That takes care of pretty much every other track I have little to nothing to say about, so let's keep going. Now, moving back to individual sections, it's time for possibly my most controversial opinion in the video. Because at number 17, I've put Wonder Museum. Now, let me explain. I do like this track a lot. We've gotten to the tracks I really enjoy. This one seemed to be the most popular track in the open network test by far, and it's easy to see why. Dinosaur skeletons that come to life on lap 3, all the references throughout the museum, and of course, that incredible song playing throughout it all. I have absolutely nothing against this track. I really like it. There just happen to be other tracks I like more. In 16th place, we have Ocean View. This one has a lot going for it. The music is great, especially for lap 3, and it has a couple of tricky but satisfying shortcuts in the first half of the track. I've always liked the look of this stage whenever it's shown up in other Sonic games, though often under other names, and this track having that massive loop you drive on is super cool. There's not much else I can say, this track is just really fun. Up next is Apotos in 15th place. Or is it Apotos? Apotos? I don't know. Anyways, I'm surprised I ended up liking this one as much as I do. The narrow corridors seem like they'd make for poor track design, but the designers managed to make such narrow areas feel fun to drive through. Especially if you're in the back of a crowd and get the monster truck, then you feel like a menace mowing everyone else down. The music is good as well, and the gliding sections of the track are fun, as brief as they are. Overall, I'm surprised that a stage like Apotos was able to be transformed into a racetrack so well, but I'm glad they were able to make it so fun to race through. At the number 14 spot, I put North Star Islands. I never fully played through Superstars, the game this track is based on, but this track is a lot of fun to race on even without knowing the exact references. I really like the visuals of this track. They're so bright and colorful in some areas, contrasted by the more structural and architectural browns and grays of the ruins and factory. The music is pretty good, though personally I would say it's the weakest part of the track, but that just means the rest of the track is even better than the music. Coming in at 13th place, Crystal Mine. This was the most recent change of the video, made while editing it. I swapped it with a track a couple places higher up, because the one I moved higher uses one of my favorite design elements better, building around a natural landscape. This track kinda does go against the idea of using the natural landscape and building around it, instead of terraforming it, but even still, having a racetrack through a crystal digging site is absolutely awesome in concept. And in execution, the track nails the idea. The shortcut where you use a dump truck as a ramp is awesome. And the flight section when you pass by a massive crane is insanely cool. Honestly, one of my favorite individual parts of any track. In 12th place is Digital Circuit, which also really surprised me. I wasn't expecting to like this Crossworld as much as I do, especially given the game it comes from. But the super tech-sounding vibes of the music, as well as the accompanying visuals of the track itself, are awesome. The track layout weaving back and forth with what look like rounded square corners, and then crossing over and under each other at the end, and the short flight section where you have to fly around the lasers, it's all super cool, and makes for a super fun track to race on. Barely missing out on the top 10, 11th place goes to Urban Canyon. The main appeal of this track to me is its setting. I've always really liked the idea and look of buildings that are made around a landscape, rather than ones that have to terraform an area to be built. So making an entire urban district that's located within a massive canyon without terraforming it and instead working with the natural terrain, it's awesome! It helps even more that the canyon seems to be made of some red-colored stone, which makes it look even cooler. I especially like the section where you can either drive on the road in the canyon or fly through it. I personally try to always do the latter. Lastly, the music for this track is great as well. It's a super fun track that I always look forward to racing on. And here we are at the top 10, the best of the best, the absolute peak this game has to offer. And we're starting off strong with number 10, Aqua Forest. Right off the bat, this is probably one of my favorite songs in the entire game. I doubt this was the intended vibe of the music, but to me personally, it gives off heavy pirate vibes, and I really like it. The track also follows that same idea of building around the natural environment, even if not quite as well as Urban Canyon does. The flowing water along the glass-looking paths through the trees looks so incredible, and that shortcut over the bottomless pit that you can take with the 3 dash rings might just be my favorite shortcut in the game. Overall, an absolutely phenomenal track, and we've only just started the top 10. Next up, in 9th place is Radical Highway. After how disappointed I was by the versions of this stage in Shadow Generations, I wasn't sure what to expect of this track, especially as I've never actually experienced the original version of the stage myself. I've heard great things about the stage, and I've been wanting to try a modern version of it for a while now. And finally, Crossworlds has given me the Radical Highway experience I've been hoping for. Boost panels up the sides of the bridge, loops and turns galore, a massive leap up from a lower section. This track is such a blast to race through. And the music is great as well. It's super fitting for the vibe of the track. This is what I hoped for in Shadow Generations, so I'm glad I've finally gotten to experience what I wanted out of Radical Highway. Coming in at the number 8 spot is Cyberspace. Out of any track in the game, this one by far surprised me the most. I did not like the Cyberspace levels in Frontiers. At all. The levels were, to me at least, boring and unoriginal at their best, and genuinely frustrating and not fun at all at their worst. There's almost certainly some fault of my own there, but that was the experience that I had with them. I wasn't sure what to expect from Cyberspace in this game, but it certainly wasn't for me to like it enough to put it in my top 10. This one gets this high mainly on the gameplay, with the visual aesthetic also playing a part. The paths going up and down and beside each other, the two large, wide turns, the flight section in between those turns, and the traffic at the end to avoid are all so much fun to race through. Significantly more so than what I expected going into it. Overall, it's a really fun track. Like with Radical Highway, I'm glad Crossworlds was able to give me a fun experience on a level I previously didn't enjoy. Lucky number 7, this spot goes to Steampunk City. I am so glad I never saw or heard anything about this track before the release of the game. I have always been a huge fan of the steampunk aesthetic. It looks so insanely cool. Clocks and gears, pipes and whistles, all in a nice bronze, coppery, and gray color palette, with white cloth occasionally finding its way in. Steampunk is so awesome. And the trains on this track, holy crap, are those awesome too. Having to avoid one or two coming down the track, and then immediately being able to drive under one, how sick is that? And this is something I haven't mentioned about the tracks in this game very much yet, but this track has the best use of alternate paths out of any track in the game. Up, down, back up to the upper path, drop down, or stay on the lower path, or stay on the lower path to access flight mode sooner. This track is just so cool in every way. From a super cool aesthetic to white and gold nothingness, in 6th place is White Space. A bit of a spoiler warning for those who haven't played it, I'm gonna briefly mention something that happens at the end of Shadow Generations. I had a lot of fun with Shadow Generations, so seeing it get a track in this game was super cool. And where else to have it take place but the same hub area that Shadow explored in that game, complete with the Black Moon in the center, a water section just like the layouts found in Shadow Generations, and the third lap turning everything red and black just like the end of that game. And the third lap of this track might be the most different and unique from the first two of any track in the game, even beyond just going red. You go up into the air and fly for a bit, then descend back down along the floating platforms until you reach the finish line, all of which is a completely alternate path than lap 1. This track is amazing no matter how you look at it, and it rightfully belongs this high up. Now we're getting into the top 5. Starting things off, we have Sand Road in 5th place. I haven't mentioned music in the last 3 entries, so how about we start there? This is my favorite track song in the entire game. Whenever this song comes on, I have a great time, whether I'm actually on this track or hearing it on another track thanks to the jukebox feature. But a good song alone can't be the reason I rank a track so highly. It needs to be fun to race on. And thankfully, Sand Road is tons of fun. It helps that I tend to like desert levels more than the average person. I think they're super cool to play through in most games that have them. And this is no exception. The winding turns and water section on lap 3 are so much fun to race on. This track is so great, and I always have a blast racing on it. Sitting comfortably in 4th place is Kronos Island. This one, I knew I was gonna like from the moment I heard about it, and I'm very happy to have been right about that. While I did have some issues with Frontiers as a game, overall I did enjoy it a lot. And seeing all the ruins and fields of Kronos Island again, repurposed into a racetrack, is beyond awesome. Oh, and using the squid mini-boss's purple path it creates as part of the track is such a genius idea. The music is also great. Having an instrumental of I'm Here kick off right as lap 3 starts is such a peak decision. I thought going into this game that this was going to be my absolute favorite main track in the game. But then I discovered a track I had no idea was in the game until playing it myself. And speaking of that track, it makes it into the 3rd place spot. Taking the bronze trophy is none other than Market Street, or, as I call it, Rooftop Run. Sega really thought they were slick naming this track Market Street, but I could tell what it was right away. Rooftop Run from Sonic Generations, specifically Act 1, is my 2nd favorite platforming level in any Sonic game ever, beaten only by Chemical Plant Zone in Sonic 2. But that aside, this track is so good. Absolutely phenomenal in every single way. From the layout, to the visuals, to the incredible music. Literally the only thing holding this track back by one slot is that I wish it was just a little longer. Something that, by nature of being Crossworlds, the top 2 can get away with more than a main track. But when the only issue I have with the track is that I want more of it, you know you've done something right. In the runner-up spot, claiming the silver trophy as the 2nd best track in the game, we have Roulette Road. You know it, I know it, so let's get the joke out of the way now. Gambling! We love gambling! Now that that's been said, let's get into the actual strength of this track. First off, the music for this track is incredible. Definitely my 2nd or 3rd favorite song in the entire game. The aesthetic design of the track is top-notch as well, especially with how creatively it incorporates the casino elements. Drifting around a roulette table, slot rollers acting as ramps to drive up and trick off of, a couple of floating poker chips to cut a corner for a shortcut near the start. It's all connected to the theme of the track so well. An absolutely incredible track in every way that was only beaten out by one other track. And if anyone has been counting all of the tracks so far, or they know me and my biases, the last track should already be obvious. And now, the final track. The absolute best in the game. Claiming the gold trophy and the title of best track in 1st place is White Cave. Sonic Riders is one of my favorite video games of all time, and by far my favorite Sonic game and my favorite racing game. One of my biggest hopes for this game, alongside including Jet and the Babylon Rogues, alongside their extreme gear, was that we would also get a track from the game. And Sega actually did it. And they chose a pretty damn good one to adapt too. The original White Cave is a lot of fun, and the version in Crossworlds is absolutely a worthy follow-up. The music has been expertly remixed to be new and fresh, while still retaining all the charm and hype of the original. And they even went ahead and included the original music for this track in the jukebox, which made me so happy to see and hear. While the track is now a line from start to end, instead of a circuit like in Riders, it works really well as a Crossworld, even though I'd have liked for it to be a full track. The new additions to the track, like the bouncy flowers and the spiked vines shooting out of the ground, are super cool additions to give the track a unique identity. All in all, this track is nothing short of incredible in every way, and that, compounded with my love for Sonic Riders, makes White Cave an easy pick for my favorite track in the game. And there we have it. All 39 base game tracks ranked from worst to best. This game is so much fun and has so many great tracks to race on. And like I said at the start, once all the DLC tracks are out, I'll rank them as well. I also have a couple of ideas for other ranking videos I want to make, so keep an eye out for those. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving the video a like and maybe even subscribing to the channel. Both of those things help out the channel a lot. And feel free to leave a comment talking about what tracks you like or don't like in the game. Before I end the video, I just want to take a moment to say thank you all so much for the support on my videos these last few months. I've been wanting to make videos for years, and I finally had the push I needed to begin this past year. I'm still very new to this, but I hope to keep improving my videos as time goes on to deliver the best content I possibly can. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the new year.